It's finally time, for me at least, to harvest my garlic and onions and prepare them for storage. Let's start with garlic first. How do you know when garlic is ready to be harvested, first of all? Well, the first thing you're going to look for is that the bottom leaves on the garlic are going to start turning brown and drying up. Once that happens, you're going to need to dig down. Sometimes you can do it without disturbing the garlic. Sometimes I just dig one up and just see if it's ready. And you'll just be able to tell by it being a nice size. If it's a soft neck garlic, it gets kind of floppy anyway, so you know it's ready. But when it gets to be a nice size, you know it's probably time to pull them up. So I gotta say, this is not a bad haul for 15 square feet. I'm very happy with this. Now, you're gonna know there's gonna be different ranges of bulb sizes. You can see that there. And you'll notice it corresponds to the thickness of the stalk. So, you know, some might be just the genetic programming in whatever clove that you planted. Some could be the amount of water it got, if there was less sunshine, less fertilizer, more fertilizer in one particular section. So the next thing you want to do is just brush off the soil. You don't have to wash it. In fact, don't wash it. That's going to introduce too much moisture. We really want these to dry out, so let's not introduce any more moisture to it. So just brush off the majority of the soil with your hand. You can use a brush if you want to. Now, we're not going to remove the stalk. We're going to keep these on until we have these dried. There's a couple ways to dry it. One way you can do it is by taking a tray that's made out of like a screen material and laying them out single layer on top of that. Or you can take 8 to 10 garlic stems, tie them together, and hang them up, bulb side down. You want to hang them in the dark for about 3 to 4 weeks. They're going to look like this when they're done. Very dry, very brittle, very papery. When they're at this point, you can cut off the roots, just like that, and you can cut off the stem, just like this. Garlicky. Or, if you're really fancy, you can take them and braid them together somehow and hang them up. They still need to be hung in the dark. When you see them hanging in people's bright lit kitchens, that's just for show. They will last much longer in the dark. If you're not all that fancy, you can just take these net bags like bulbs come in. I just saved these. You could probably get them on Amazon, I don't know, but I just saved the ones that tulips or daffodils come in the fall. Fill it up with your garlic, hang this in a cool, dark place, and they will last for many, many months. Okay, on to onions. What you're looking for with onions is the stems are going to start to slowly flop. And once about half of the onion stems have flopped over, gently go to the rest of your onions and bend them over right at the base. And that's going to signal the onion plants that it's time to prepare for dormancy. If you have the ability to withhold water for about a week before actually harvesting, and that's going to help them get the drying process started. So when it's time to harvest, you want to dig up your onions from below. You can use a shovel. I just use my hands because my soil is pretty easy to get down there. You use a shovel, sometimes you accidentally slice one of the onions in half. But the reason you want to dig them up and not pull them up like I did the garlic is they have a weaker neck than garlic does. They have a weaker neck than garlic does. And so you might, if the neck breaks off and it's not cured, you're going to start to introduce the possibility of disease. Okay, not too bad for a small space. Now, something I noticed, and I worried about a month ago that this might be an issue. If if you notice here, we've got kind of a discrepancy between bulb sizes. A significant portion of my onions happened to be overrun with nasturtiums this year. They were beautiful. They look great, and I just left them. Unfortunately, I think they shaded out. Either they shaded them out, or they were just competing too much for nutrients in the same spot. But the nasturtiums were about this tall on the plant. So it could have been both. But anyway, I'm not going to do so much bushy planting around the onions next year because there's a significant difference in the size, and it was consistent. Where these nasturtiums were is where these small bulbs came from. Anyway, enough of that. Now that we've got them dug up, what do we do to cure them? So there's not a lot of soil really on these, so you don't have to clean them up too much. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay them in the sun in a single layer, one by one, in the sun, and we're gonna leave them there for 2 to 3 days so they can just start to dry up, get a little crispy. After 2 or 3 days, we're gonna move the onions same way. You're gonna single layer into the shade, and that's gonna be for several weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and that process is only finished when the leaves are completely crispy and brittle, and you got papery skins, the roots are completely dry. At that point, you know they're ready to store. Then it's okay to cut off the leaves, cut off the roots, even take maybe a layer or two of paper off if they're really dirty, or maybe they've got some kind of mildew on them, till you see a nice bright brown or red papery skin. Then they're good to go. Store them in a cool, dry place, and they should last. Us here in the South, we grow short day onions, and those really only last maybe 3 months in storage if stored perfectly. In the North, a lot of your onions, the long day onions, those could very well last through the winter. Sweet onions probably won't last as long. They're probably more in the 3-month range. So I hope that helped. I hope following all of my instructions from planting to harvest gets you a great harvest this year. And let me know down below if you grew onions or garlic this year and what your outcome was, or what it's looking like if it's not quite harvest time for you. See you next time.